Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of the Software Vulnerability Insights podcast, your go-to source for everything related to software vulnerability management. So I'm your host, Jeroen Braak, based out of the Netherlands, as an application lifecycle management associate since 1999. But before we dive into the intriguing world of software vulnerabilities, let me tell you exactly why we're doing this podcast and what you can expect with this podcast. So first, the why. So in a world that is more interconnected than ever, where technology is an integral part of our lives, software vulnerabilities have become a significant concern. From data breaches to cyber attacks, understanding and managing software vulnerabilities is paramount to today's digital landscape. If we look at 2022, that was the year with the most recorded vulnerabilities ever, over 25,000 CVEs, and I will explain that a little bit more in other podcasts. But this means that on average, about 100 vulnerabilities are disclosed each day, and security teams need to research them, test them, verify them, prioritize them, notify the stakeholders in the company. But that's not even all. The software vulnerabilities need to be patched as quickly as possible based on that priority it's given. So IT operations have to find the right patch, test them, configure them, and deploy them. That all takes time. And time is something we don't have, right? Hackers are getting faster every day. If you look at COVID, at the pre-COVID period, the risk window was around 30 days. And during COVID, and now with all the conflicts in the world, it went from 7 days, even to 1 day for a hacker to deploy, or actually to develop and deploy an exploit or cyber attack for a very specific vulnerability. So time is important. This means also that we need to work smarter. We need to work more efficient and effective. And also have a way to receive accurate, actionable software vulnerability and threat intelligence to shrink that risk window before it's too late. So this podcast will help you with that goal in mind, shrinking that risk window. Now, what can you expect from me or from us? I'm committed to deliver you valuable content to you every week during these podcasts. And here's a glimpse of what is in store. So the first week of each month, we will be unpacking the latest monthly vulnerability insights reports. This is a report that I create every month based on Security research and all the trends that are out there. We analyze these trends. We share critical takeaways, and we keep you updated on the state of software vulnerabilities. In the other episodes, we'll dive into topics surrounding software vulnerability management. We'll start from the basics, explaining you the terms like what is a CVE, common vulnerability and exposures, and the NVD, the National Vulnerability Database. We'll discuss the pros and the cons of various approaches to managing software vulnerabilities. We'll also explore alternative solutions. Take a close look at Security being the market leader in research. And in a nutshell, our podcast is a one-stop destination for all things related to that software vulnerability. And whether you're an IT professional, a cyber security enthusiast, or someone who's actually interested in staying safe online, we've got you covered. So, and as we progress, we'll venture into discussions also about the future of software vulnerability management. And maybe I'll invite some of my peers out of the industry, from my colleagues, and that we'll talk about, a lot of these topics that I just mentioned. Since we will talk a lot about security advisories, which is like a cool thing that we create from security research, therefore a quick introduction into this. So if you not know already, but security research was created back in 2002, delivering security advisories that provide a reliable, curated, and actionable vulnerability intelligence. So, there are a lot of vulnerabilities out there. I just mentioned 25,000 of them that are coming out each year. So the security team of the security research team is testing all those vulnerabilities. A security advisory is actually a summary of all the work that the security research team performs to communicate a standardized, validated, and enriched vulnerability research on a specific software product version. We issue security research criticality ratings and common vulnerability scoring systems like the CVSS score after a distinct analysis in these advisories. So this dual rating method also allows us for a much improved means of prioritization by criticality, but also by threat intelligence. And unlike public sources, Security Research provides association of known exploits. So that is the threat intelligence. So we will tell you exactly what exploits are out there and which are associated with the CVEs for a specific product. So check our next episodes for more information about that, where we go into detail. All right, well, let's dive right in for the August edition of the Vulnerability Insights report. So the interesting thing is that, in this podcast, we will talk about all these advisories and all the vulnerability information. So we see a lot of astonishing trends that are shaping the cybersecurity landscape. For example, last month, August, we had about 822 advisories written by the Security Research team. That's up, going from 725 in July to 821 in August. That's the second highest month since 2002, since we started recording these advisories. Actually, May this year was the highest advisory count ever. So if you look at 2022, last year, that was already a record-breaking year with the highest number of security advisories reported. However, if we look at 2023, we are already shaping up to break that record again with a year-to-date increase of about 25 to 30%. So we are growing rapidly. That means it's really important that you keep track of all your vulnerabilities. So if you look at the advisories, we have advisories for about 93 unique vendors this last month, 381 unique products, and 792 unique product versions were reported. About 50% of all vulnerabilities that were reported, they had a remote attack vector. That means they can be attacked from the internet. But that's not all. Here are some critical takeaways. The Security Research team reported only, luckily for us, one extremely critical advisory last month. If we look at July, that was 16. So we had a pretty slow month last month. If we look at the 0-day advisories, we only had 5 0 days. Last month, July, we had 17, including Microsoft, Mobile Iron, and Roarlabs in August. Let's look at the unique CVE. So as I explained, advisories are a summary of all the research that our Security Research team does, and that includes that we are product focused. That means that all the CVEs related to a certain product will be combined into one advisory for a product version. For last month, in August, we had 1,491 unique CVEs covered in those 821 advisories. That's a lot. However, last month, in July, there were 1,731 of them. So now here's where it gets really interesting, that we also have some intriguing vendor statistics. Right? So if you look at all the advisories that we have, more than half of them were just disclosed by 4 vendors. Those are the 4, pretty well-known ones: SUSE, Amazon, Ubuntu, and Red Hat. And they're almost standard in every monthly report. So surprisingly, some of these vendors also have the most rejected advisories. And I will explain more about rejections and rejected advisories in our next podcast. But SUSE, Amazon, they had a lot of advisories that were not really like vulnerabilities. They were rejected because either you have to bypass all kinds of best practices or other reasons why you shouldn't really focus on these. And for those who are in the networking space, please note Cisco and NetApp are contributing to almost 63% of all networking related advisories this month. And I mean with this month again, August. But last but not least, threat intelligence. In a world where there are 25,000 new vulnerabilities disclosed every year, 100 a day, being smart about prioritization, remediation efforts is essential. Leveraging threat intel will help you to understand which of these vulnerabilities will affect your environment and are actually being exploited in the wild. Now, if we look at August, 70% of all the advisories had a positive threat score. That means that there is evidence of a threat, of a malware. It's still 10% less than in July, but in absolute numbers, we're still about the same. 514 malware exploited CVs were reported out of about 1,500, which is a welcoming decline compared to the last few months, but it's still really high, and the trend is still going up. If you combine threat intelligence scoring, for example, with other data like CVSS scoring, attack vector, impact, the consequence of what happens if a vulnerability is being attacked, asset sensitivity is also something that is important. You will be more effective in prioritizing what needs to be patched. So combining all that to create a better prioritization procedure or process is key. For example, if you would only focus on vulnerabilities with a CVSS score of 7 or higher, you would only address about 50% of all the known exploits, and that is a fact. Anyway, I hope this was interesting. It's a wrap on this month's Chikungunya Research Update. I hope you found these insights as an eye-opening as we did. Stay tuned for more in-depth discussions on cybersecurity and threat intelligence in our future episodes. Thank you for joining us on the Software Vulnerability Insights podcast, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and stay vigilant. Until next time, stay secure. Thank you.